Hello, standing family. This is Sheila Hollinger with Marriage Revealed Ministries. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to give you fair warning. I have already restarted this video like 5 times because it's a struggle to try to convey what I am trying to put into words, what I know. And so you're going to have to bear with me. There's going to be a lot of tongue twisters. There's going to be a lot of, just me mumbling my words. But I'm going to do my best. So, this message is what I believe a very important message, and it's one that I struggled greatly with, and God would reveal it to me, and I would be like, "Oh, okay, yep, I remember you telling me that," but I would easily forget it. And what I have found happens when that kind of a training comes from the Lord, where He's always having to remind me the same thing over and over, it's because he's chipping away at a belief system in me. And sometimes we get the message and we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I believed that. And it's so deeply in me. And you think, okay, I'm going to remember this. Well, you don't. And you go back and you're like, oh, I'm on that same path, following the same belief in me. And so that's why sometimes you have to relearn the message over and over and over until you start to remember quicker. Oh yeah, I can't go down this path. This is wrong. This is not true. And so let's dive in, and again, bear with me as I try to get this very important message out. And you probably will be one that has to come back to this over and over and over to listen to it just so you can even understand what I'm trying to say. So, oftentimes in my early stand, and even probably toward even the end, because like I said, this was a deep rooted belief in me, I would come across this belief in me that if I did not show my husband outwardly any type of consequence to his sin, then he would have no reason to change. And that would mean, and my consequences were many. That would mean showing him hurt, showing him anger, outright yelling at him, having that powerful talk with him that I knew was just going to change his mind. It meant if I was actually having an okay day and I had peace and joy, and remember, I had 3 children, 3 little children during my 7-year stand. So I was always trying to be that joyful, happy, peace-filled mom. I failed quite a bit. But I'll tell you that when my husband walked through the door, sometimes a switch would flip and I would lose my joy. I would lose that smile that I was going through with my children. I really was trying to enjoy my children, and I would, spend those times just really trying to focus on them and put aside all the suffering and the pain, because I didn't want to remember my first years with my children as being so much in agony. So I really purposefully focused on my children and let what and who they were, their little faces, just their giggles and all of that. They were babies, they were toddlers, they were young, right? So but a switch would flip in me the second he walked in the door. And it was because, and God would show me this, I was trying to send a message to my husband. You did this to me. You made me miserable. You destroyed our family. You're destroying our family. You're hurting me. And I truly was portraying this broken, victimized, abandoned, hurt, destroyed woman to my husband, right? Because I believed, and this is what I'm going to share with you. I believed that if I showed him I'm okay, I'm happy, I'm doing fine. I mean, there was never going to be happiness, right? I want to really get this point across. If your spouse is taken over by the enemy, if you have a lost spouse who's not following God, who's in rebellion, How can you be truly, truly walking in this happiness of life, contentment? That's what happiness is to a Christian: content, peace. Now, I know we're supposed to be content in every situation we are, and I'm not saying that God doesn't want that for us. He absolutely wants us to be walking in content, not fear, right? Content, which is faith, the joy of the Lord. But if we are truly okay in our hearts that we're like, I don't care. Satan can have them. That's what I'm talking about. We should never be okay with our spouses being in the grip of Satan. We should be at a place where we are walking in a content with the Lord. Yes, this is my lot right now. This is my place in life. And I'm not okay with my husband, my wife, being in the grip of the enemy. You can be in a state of content where you're not walking in fear, you're not walking in an overabundance of pain because you're bitter. You have, angry, bitter things going on. You're walking in unforgiveness. When you're having all that going on in your heart, you're not content. All right? You've got a lot of things going on in you that is stealing your joy of the Lord. Okay, so let's get back to what I was trying to say. So I wasn't okay with him being in the grip of the enemy, but there was something else going on in me. There was a manipulation going on in me because I truly believed that it was up to me to show my husband consequences for his actions. And I want to get to the heart and the root of why. I'm not the only one. So many of you ask, Sheila, if I love him, if I love her, if I don't show them how unhappy I am, how upset I am I not enabling them? That's the questions I get. Am I not am I adding to their problems? Okay, so let's dive into this really important subject, right? What makes us so powerful? That's the question I want to ask. Are we more powerful than God? Is our consequences more powerful than God? And so what God would say to me is, Sheila, do you not think him being apart from me, do you not think him sinning and having that conviction inside, that thing that's coming and robbing his peace, do you not think that is what is powerful enough to change him? Why do you think you being angry and showing him how sad you are and showing him how unhappy you is, why do you think that's more powerful than the work I'm doing inside of him? And I really had to stop and think about, there were times, there still are, okay, there's still times when I sit back and I'm like, look around and everything is going great in life, right? Everything, our bills are paid, our children are, yeah, you do everything, you check all the boxes. Yet deep inside, you're discontent. There's something stirring in you that you just can't, it's just not right, that inner soul peace. And I have to go before the Lord and I have to say, God, is this part of the chemical imbalance, bipolar that I have? Or is this something that you are stirring in me saying, Sheila, there's something not right. You're not surrendered in this, or you're not following me. You're not in my will. I have to get before God because on the outside, everything is checking those boxes, right? But inside, I'm a mess. And that's enough for us to understand. That's how God speaks to us. That's how God changes. We have this belief that, oh, the car broke, the house is damaged, the somebody, is in a fight with you, and we look at the outward of everything going on outside, messing up, and we get so like, oh, that's God, taking away and destroying things and teaching him a lesson, and that's the reaping and sowing. And we put so much power in that, to the point where we think, oh, look at our spouse. Look at how happy they are. Look at how, they're smiling in those pictures. They're going on vacation. They're doing this. They're doing that. They're buying this. They're buying that. They're making all these plans. Did we never consider that the reason that they're doing all this over and abundant things on the outward, right, is because they're so broken and being convicted and upset on the inside? because God is pursuing them in their soul, opening up their understanding that, hey, you could go buy that new car, it ain't going to make you happy. Hey, you can go on that vacation and you'll be okay while you're on the vacation, but when you come back on that plane ride home, you're going to feel it. I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to be working on you, letting you know there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I mean, we look at stars, celebrities who they seem to have everything, right? And yet when you maybe watch some documentaries and they share with you, they had everything, fame, fortune, and they were miserable, miserable on the inside. Jim Carrey is one that I just recently watched something on him, and his faith in God. Some of the things he's sharing is so beautiful. He had it all, and he couldn't find that inner soul peace, and that the transformation on the outside looked great, but he was not being transformed on the inside, and he felt it. And so this is what I'm talking about. We fail to see that conviction in your heart is one of the most powerful things when it comes from God. It's more powerful than you walking around showing them how hurt you are, showing them how unhappy you are, showing them, yes, those are consequences and they do impact the spouse. And I'll tell you right now, the more angry and hurt I showed my spouse, the more obstinate, meaner, cruel, the more hard in heart he got, because he felt the manipulation to some degree. Some of it was real, right? When I was hurt, there was a realness to it, but there was also at times where, like I said, I flipped that switch. I had been just doing fine, and then all of a sudden, up, spouse is home. I got to go back to being a victim. I got to go back to showing this man how he's destroying me. But I sure didn't want him to see how 5 minutes ago I was giggling and laughing and playing hide and seek with my children, and we were doing great. But oh, he can't see that, because then he's going to think, oh, she's fine. She's fine. I can still cheat. I can still be in adultery. I can still stay out till 3 in the morning. I can still disappear for weeks. Oh, she's fine. I sure didn't want him to know that, right? I didn't want him to think that, because why? I thought I had the power in my victimization, that was going to be what changed him and broke him. I thought he would walk in the door and say, "Oh, look at how, oh, wow, look what I've done to my wife. Oh, I've got to change. I've got to change. Look at her crying. Look at her walking around slamming things. Look at her. Oh, I've got to change." No, no, I'll tell you right now, that is not what he thought. The moment he came home and saw that in me, he thought to himself, this is exactly why I don't want to be here with her. This is exactly why I don't want to be married to her. And God had to really show me that, Sheila, you're not helping. You're not helping. And he would wake up in the morning and tell me, because sometimes I heard him pacing the floor in the middle of the night, and he would wake up in the morning and he would say, "Yeah, God woke me up, and I can't do this anymore." He never said, "Sheila, I came home and I saw you crying, and I saw you, slamming things, and I saw you yelling at the kids, and I realized I gotta stop." He never said that to me, not once. Never, not one time did he say that. And I'll tell you, when I turned on those tears, I turned them on a little bit, drip, 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 and I didn't get the response I wanted. So then I would turn it on even more until I was just a flowing mess. And not once did I get him looking at me and saying, "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. You're right. This is horrible what I'm doing. I'm breaking our family." No, no. In fact, when I started out with a drip, I had only intended, a little bit a little bit of crying, and I thought, oh, this surely is going to make him say he's sorry. No, it didn't. I'm like, wow, it didn't do anything. And so I had to go even more. And then the anger would build in me, and the floodgates would come. And I never got the outcome. But what I did hear from my husband was in the quiet, in the stillness of the night. He would wake up, and he didn't have me crying, right? And it was never on the nights that I had cried or showed anything. It was the nights where I was quiet. I'll tell you right now, it was the days where I was in my prayer, interceding and just pouring out praises and worship to God, and you could feel the atmosphere in this house change. You could feel me, I could feel myself changing with this abounding peace coming from God, where I knew everything was going to be okay. And I would get in the next day, I would hear my husband say, I came home and I went to bed, and, because he drank a lot, and he would wake up at 4 in the morning, and he couldn't sleep. God was speaking to him. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if it was because yesterday I had a really great day with the Lord, where I just worshiped and I filled that house, this atmosphere, and he felt it when he came home. And I wonder if that's what made, things change when he went to bed that night. And the presence of God was just really strong, because I had all the, radios going with worship, and I was reading the word and walking around this house and just flooding this house with the word of God. And I those were the most amazing days, because it strengthened me. It flipped a switch in me when I was really struggling and crying in my anger and crying in my bitterness, and oh my gosh. And I knew I can't stay here. I can't do this. So I would get out the word of God and walk around the house and speak the scriptures, and I would crank the praise music, and oh, the peace and the contentment. And it was like I started to think, are those the nights that, because I started seeing a pattern. He would wake up the next day and say, "Yeah, I just yeah, I wasn't, I got to change. This has got to stop." And I started hearing some of the things he had pretty much vowed and promised me, like, I will never not be friends with the other woman. I started hearing the opposite coming out of his mouth. I started hearing him saying, "Yeah, I can't be friends with her. This isn't working." And yeah, of course, he went back and forth with her quite a bit over that, last year. But I'll tell you, I started to that belief in me, that belief that I held the power to bring the consequences that was going to change his heart, started to diminish. Especially when I would confront him about things that I really had no tolerance for, him playing certain music. I just was so adamant, and he became more obstinate and more rebellious and more defiant, right? It was like a mother-child situation. I tell you no, and you're going to go and rebel and do it anyway. And I found that I just had to zip my lips and go into prayer and say, "God, please, this is tormenting me. Some of the songs that he's playing, I can't get past some of these words in these songs. It's destroying me." And I just I would crank the praise music in my bedroom so I couldn't hear what these songs he had cranked playing out in the garage. And sometimes they were in the house. He was playing it on the computer, and all of a sudden, right in the middle, it would stop. And I would be just thanking God. You came to my defense, God. I zipped my lips. I let God handle it. He brought the conviction. He went to my husband and stopped it. Because if I had gone to my husband and opened my mouth, I would have got him turning up the volume even more, playing him even longer, right? Where maybe he was only going to play one song, but because I yelled at him and tried to be a mom and chastise him for what he was doing, he was like, "Fine, and I'm not going to play one. I'm going to play 3 hours worth." And I could see the switch in him change as he went from just, "I'm just going to sit here and enjoy music," to all of a sudden doing it out of spite, doing it out of rebellion, doing it on purpose. Because no one's going to tell me what to do. You're not going to control me. That was his attitude. And he, you know what? And I'm not, I want to say this carefully, but after being years in my control and under my thumb, he had every right to stand up to me. Now, no, he didn't. It wasn't the right way. I'm not saying I'm giving him permission, but he had every right to defend his choices in what he wanted to do, but it wasn't in a loving manner. No, he shouldn't have done it in spite. He hadn't figured out yet how to take a stand against my controllingness, and he did it all in the wrong way. But he did have a right to find who he was as a husband and say to me, "You know what? This is what I'm choosing to do. I know you don't like it, and I hear you, And then he should have taken that to God and been like, my wife doesn't like this choice of music. Am I doing something wrong? Who's right or wrong here? That's what I do now. When my husband brings attention to something that I truly believe he's off the wall with, I'm not going to argue with him. I'm going to respect him and I'm going to change right away. And I'm going to go straight to God and say, God, I need you to be the judge here. One of us is wrong. We both feel like we're right. I'm submitting to him and I'm doing as he asked because that's what I need to do. But if I'm right and he's wrong, then I'm going to ask you to go and change his heart. And there were times when God said, no, Sheila, you are wrong. And I will show you, I will change your belief and I will help you see you are wrong. And there were times where God said, "Nope, Sheila, you got this. You are right. This conviction from you know that he's feeling is not coming from me. It wasn't conviction, it was this belief that he had, but God would say to me, you just got to give me time. You're going to have to submit, you're going to have to listen and let the consequences of what he's choosing and my conviction be what changes him." And yeah, some of those things were really hard to just sit back and, oh, boy, I wanted to put my little 2 cents and see, I told you this wasn't going to work, but no, I needed God to be the one. And I didn't want to interfere because, you have to understand that pride will come in. You know, a lot of times when we get upset, we will accuse, we will mock, we will bring shame. And I'm telling you right now, what we get in return is pride. Pride will come in and defend them. Your pride rises up, and even though you might know, oh, yeah, my wife warned me about this and I shouldn't have done this, but look at her attitude. I told you so. I told you so, right? And what you're going to meet when you have that attitude of, look, I told you not to do this. Look what you've done. Look at, whatever. And you're going to be met with pride. You're not going to be met with humility. And that's why you have to zip your lips and you have to not walk around with this air of, see, I was right. You were wrong. You were wrong. And now look what you've done. If you walk around with that attitude, you're not creating a safe place for your spouse to face what they've done with humility because pride is going to interfere. And so a lot of times that's our pride, right? Our pride wants to point out, see, I told you so. So again, you have to let God be God. You have to you have to work on you and you have to work on those beliefs that you are more important. Your consequences are more important. You are, as long as you show them that you're not okay with this and oh, how many times we point out how unhappy and sad our children are. And we might play that up and make it even way worse than it really is, right? Because we want to bring guilt. We want to bring shame. We want to condemn them. It's not going to work. Sometimes we send a picture of our children enjoying something and we say we're doing it because we want them to be a part of their child's life. We want to show them and we want them to be, enjoy. But we're really our motive is this. Look what you missed. If you had been here, you would have been a part of this. Look, and we have this ulterior motive. And you know what? The spouse feels it because the same enemy that is influencing you to do that is the same enemy that's opening their eyes to what's being done. Let me say that again. If an enemy is manipulating you to manipulate them, that same enemy is now revealing the manipulation and it's a two-way street. So your motives are not as secret as you think. And sometimes your motives are pure motives, but the enemy can still get a hold of it and twist it, and your spouse will look at that picture and go, she's just doing this to try to make me feel bad. He's just doing this to make me think that, you know, whatever, right? The enemy can contort and twist things up too. But you got to check your heart first. And if you do have pure motives and you do, you took a photo or a video of something your child was doing so cute and you're like, God, I really want him to see this. I really want her to be part of this. I want to send this. Please protect the innocence of this moment that I'm sharing, that I'm not trying to guilt them. I'm not trying to shame them. Plead the blood of Jesus over guilt and shame when you send things with a pure motive. Plead the blood of Jesus over your heart when you're doing things, when you're saying things, if you're trying to guilt and shame your spouse, because it's not going to work. Guilting and shaming them is only going to make them despise you. It's only going to make pride rise up. It's only going to make them harder in heart. And we don't want that. We need to work on our hearts before God. So we are pure in heart, pure in motives. We need to ask God to search our hearts, right? Create in me a clean heart, oh God, and renew a right spirit in me. That was that was something I spoke over myself 1,000 times a day, because my hurt would immediately make me go to my go-tos, right? My heart was hurt, so I would immediately go to manipulation of showing them how sad I was, showing him how angry I was, showing him how hurt I was. And I knew that wasn't pure heart, that wasn't pure motive. So I would be walking around all day, creating me a pure heart, God, and renew a right spirit in me, because I knew my spirit was going south. I was getting angry at times. I was getting manipulative times. And I was doing the very things my husband was using as the reason why he didn't want to be married to me anymore. You're controlling, you're manipulative, you don't let me speak. He had his list of wrongs. And those were his list of why I'm getting to do, his justification list of why he's getting to do what he's doing. So I had to watch myself because I didn't want to keep that list alive. I wanted him to go, wait a minute, she hasn't manipulated me in a while. She hasn't controlled me in a while. She hasn't, over talked. She hasn't shut me down. She hasn't stopped me from voicing my opinion. She hasn't done all of that. I'm starting to think, wow, maybe she really is changing. And maybe I can't use that list anymore. So he would dig up things I did 20 years ago. He kept this list alive because he wasn't ready yet to give up um his lifestyle that he had just adopted, and he was having so much fun, you know. He wasn't ready. But God was making him ready. How was God doing that? Okay, so let's talk more about what goes on inside. We are blueprinted, DNA'd inside, okay, inside, to be in a right relationship with our Father God, surrendered, serving Him, loving Him, letting Him love us, you know, knowing our identity in Him, claiming our inheritance in Him, right? We are created for Him, right? First. And when that is out of alignment, the rest of our life, the rest of the things that we were created in addition to, right? Marriage, being a parent, all those other things get distorted, fall out of line. We have blurred lines in our identity. We don't know what it's like to be a good parent because we've never seen a good parent in operation and work. We've never had the fruits of a good parent, meaning our Father in heaven, right? We've had our earthly parents, and to be honest, most of them are just as lost and messed up. And so we struggle because we don't know what a good parent looks like until we get to see a good parent, our Father God. And inside, our souls are like searching. And those are the consequences. Those are the consequences that lostness in our soul, in our spirit. And that's what God knows is the power
that changes and brings change. You could have everything on the outside, right? Everything. There's times where you think, if I don't show my spouse how unhappy and how broken he has made things, they're never going to change. But I want you to really dive into that belief and dismantle it, because look at people who are in sin together and they're getting that support, right? You got atheists who are supporting each other, and then one of them says, "You know what? I'm my spouse is so happy that I'm an atheist, but deep inside something's not right. Something is just not right inside." And they'll start to walk away and away from the support they're getting from their spouse. Because why? That inside is rebelling. Their spirit is rebelling. So next time you are revealing something to your spouse, your displeasure, your disgust, your animosity, your hurt, ask yourself why. Why am I doing this? Is because if I let them think I'm okay, am I giving a message? And I have shared this other thing with you about, you won't even let God see that you are okay because you don't want to give God the message that you don't want to give God the message that you no longer need a restored marriage. And that's again another belief that you have to work on. If you have a good day where you are full of joy, laughing in the spirit of God because you are just so at peace, and then you stop and you say, wait a minute, I can't be laughing, I can't be smiling, I can't be singing praises, I can't be doing this. God's going to think, oh, she's fine, I don't need to restore her marriage. And if you stop yourself from doing that, then it's a fear that you are the one pushing God to restore your marriage, and that it's your will that you're imposing on him instead of the other way around, that it's his will to restore you, whether you are sad or whether you are full of the joy of the Lord and happy and at peace today, right? So you have to really get that understanding that, wait a minute, this is God and this is his will. He wants us restored. So it doesn't matter what message I bring to my husband as far as him thinking that I'm doing okay, because God is going to get what God wants by putting that message in their spirit, in their soul, speaking to them that this isn't right. So I hope I was able to really share with you the heart and root of this message, the deeper understanding that you've got to break out of that belief that you have the power to change your spouse. You don't. You don't. God has enough power through his conviction working on the inside, working on the heart piece, the soul piece. He has enough power through stopping us from finding peace in sin. That's why people get so vocal and radical and boisterous about their sin, where they just have to be out there convincing everyone, I'm right, I'm doing great, I'm happy, I get to to live my life now the way I always wanted. I get to be, they're going to the extreme sometimes because they are not fighting so much you, they're fighting what's inside that just won't be quiet. They can walk in a room and feel everyone staring at them and pointing fingers saying, you're wrong, that's sin. And no one is even looking at them. No one is even saying anything, but they think they are, right? They're projecting onto them what is screaming on the inside. And no matter what they do, they can't shut it down. That's the voice of God. That's the DNA that we were born with. It's never going to shut up. Never. No matter what they do, they go and get engaged. They divorce you, go and get engaged and go get married. You think that's going to shut that up and let them be okay with what they've done? No, no. They can try to convince you as much as they want. They can be angry and more louder, right? We've seen spouses just so angry, and they're doing everything they can to let you know what a bad person you are, because they're fighting that voice inside that's screaming at them, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. And no matter what they do, they can't shut it up. And that voice is coming from the Lord, the Spirit of God, the conviction of God. He's never going to relent. He's got all the time in the world. He's got all the energy. He never grows weary. He never quiets down. That still small voice is persistent, never ending, and it's not going to stop. You can muffle it by going on a vacation and enjoying the sights. But in the quiet, when you wake up to get up and go to the bathroom on your vacation, it's there. Trust me, I know that there are some of you that are going to understand, because you've had that still small voice letting you know certain things aren't right in your life, right? And you can try to make it quiet. You can try to fill it with so many things. That's why people drink. They try to end that constant nagging, and they can't bear to live under the condemnation, the conviction, the guilt. Because a lot of times when you're out of God's will, that's what comes at you, is the enemy. They get to, oh, look, she's got an open door. She's being disobedient to God. And you're going to hear, people say, I drank because I had no peace. I needed to relax. When they say I need to relax, it's because they can't shut up things that are hounding them. And a lot of times the enemy takes full on advantage when you're outside of God's will and you're not doing things right. So we have spouses that are full on now into alcohol, drowning out, trying to drown out, muffle out God's, never ending, persistent pursuit. That's where the power is. It's not in how sad you are. It's not in how, what you're saying to them. It's not walking around giving them the silent treatment, slamming doors. But it's evident, when they walk over to come over to pick up the kids, and they can't look you in the eye, and they try to get out of there as fast as possible. We have a lot of standards that tell us that my spouses, they drop those kids off and run like a bat out of hell. They just are out of here. Why can't they look at me? Why can't they talk to me? They hate me that much? No. That's the condemnation that the enemy is putting on them because of their guilt, because of their choices. It's not about you as much as, as we try to make it, right? We try to really think, oh, they must hate us so much. Right now they're hating themselves. And that makes them angry that they hate themselves. So that's why a lot of times you have angry spouses, because they're hating what they're feeling, and they're mad because why can't I just live my life and enjoy the choice I made? I made the choice to divorce. I made the choice to leave. Why can't I just now enjoy my choice? Well, it must be my ex-wife. It must be my ex-husband's still making me feel bad for what I did. Get over it. I just want to live my life in peace. And they're walking around so angry, right? So angry at you. So that's the power of God. That's what brings change. Because one day you're going to have a spouse who just falls on their knees and says, God, I can't fight you anymore. I can't live with this thing in me that won't shut up. What can I do, God? What can I do to make it stop? What can I do to finally be at peace and stop hating and loathing myself? What can I do? That's the start. to humility. That's the start to surrendering. That's the start where God starts saying, all right, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been working toward. This is what I've wanted from you. Let's begin. And you're going to see maybe a spouse right in the middle of their situation start to go to church, right? And boy, that really upsets the standard. Wait, they're going to church with the other person? They were supposed to come home and start going to church with me. You got to be careful. You got to be careful of despising the small beginnings of where it takes place. So I pray this message blessed you. I pray that it was able to set you on a course of undoing this belief that you have the power to change your spouse through your actions, through your behavior. We have to be careful that we don't fall for that lie that, if we show them we're okay, then we've lost all hope of being restored. It's not up to us. It's up to whether God, right? It's all up to God. If He wants this marriage restored, that's what you rest and you rely on. And very, 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 very rarely is He going to be like, no, I don't want that marriage restored. I pray this message blessed you. I'd like to ask you if our ministry is supporting you, if our ministry is helping you. Please go to our website and consider being a supporter, a monthly partner, donating, even if it's a one-time gift. We have lost a lot of our financial supporters through, hardships, hard times, and I get it. But if you are able to, if you can give, please support us so we can continue um, with some of the things, our financial obligations. Go to marriagerevealedministries.com on our giving page, and we greatly appreciate your support. Any gift. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you guys.